Ladies and gentlemen, it's a big, weird, wild world out there, folks, and here we stand. Al pie del cañón, ready for anything. I'm Rob, that's Dan, and you're listening to...
The ProBoh Show!
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of The ProBoh Show. Why is it special, Dan? Do you know why it's special?
No, why?
Because it's Friday!
It's Friday!
Oh, yeah. We're unusually in sync today, Dan, and I love it. What are your plans for the weekend, sir?
I think I'm going to the cinema with a friend.
Ah, cool. What are you going to see?
Insidious.
Ah, the new Insidious movie. Oh, dude. Yeah, I too am a big fan of watching horror films in the cinema. The last one I went to see was Evil Dead Burn. It was really good. And what about you, my dear listeners? What are you doing this weekend? Please feel free to tell me in the chat. What chat? Well, if you want to be as cool, as sexy, as charming, as intellectual, as impactful, as influential as our amazing live audience, well, you can be a member of our live audience too, simply by joining us on twitch.tv/professional bohemian. That's twitch.tv/bohemio profesional, pero en inglés. Join us there and come and hang out. Express your ideas about all the things we talk about, our 100 humans and unpopular opinions, and allow me to be the conduit of your brain to the rest of the public. Do come and join us. What's coming up in today's show? Dan, we're finally coming to the end of our topic of socialism. We're finally coming to the end of this. We've had some good and productive discussions. Maybe you've even surprised yourself by some of your own ideas in defending a lot of these topics. I certainly have. I'll be honest. I certainly have, which is the whole beauty of this show, challenging our own ideas and the way we think about things, right? But we come to the end of this today. By this afternoon, you will have new topics to vote on in our Patreon community. You can vote there. If you're a free member of the Patreon community, I encourage you to become a free member, because you can also vote and have your voice heard on what we talk about next week. Next week, no topic. Dan, I'm kind of sick of. We did mental health. We've done a lot of topics over the summer. Next week is potluck. I think I might even put up to 15 topics, unpopular opinions for you to choose from. Things that we're going to talk about next week. Maybe not. Maybe that's too many to get any conclusive ideas, but we'll see. So I'll post those this afternoon. If you're a member of the Patreon community, find me there and go and vote. That's patreon.com/professional bohemian. And of course, if you want to interact with the show outside of our lifetimes, you do that on my Instagram, which is @bohemio profesional, pero en inglés, professional bohemian. All right, let's see who's joining us in the live audience today. We've got Mike. Good morning, dear Bohemians. It's Friday. Ah, yeah. I want to go and see The Dog Stars by Ridley Scott, says Mike. Yeah, I've heard about the movie. I've seen a trailer. Thanos is in it, right? What's his name? Jeez, I forget the name of the actor. I haven't read any reviews or anything, but I think it's some kind of a post-apocalyptic movie, but with a hopeful bent. I did see one very short review. I think that's probably what I'm going to wait for, Dan, to come out on streaming, if I'm honest. I did want to see Spider-Man, but I've negotiated with my girlfriend that if I get one Marvel movie a year, it's going to be Avengers Doomsday. Are you going to go see Doomsday in the cinema?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all fallen a bit out of love, haven't we, with the Marvel Universe? And I've got to go and see an Avengers movie in the theatre, though. Come on. Let's see. Vero's with us. Good morning, beautiful Bohemians around the universe and beyond. Friday. Oh, yeah. Good morning, Vero. Bridge is here. Good morning, my beautiful Bonnie Bouncy Bohemians, Bonnie Bouncy Bob, and darling dashing Dandy Dan Dan, the radio man. I had my backup alarm on in order to come back fully from the other side. I'm glad you did, and I'm glad you're with us. Do come and join us for the live experience here on Twitch. I hope to see you here momentarily. It always takes you a while on a Friday. Uncle Rob knows. Uncle Rob can see you. All right. What are we talking about today? Today is, as I mentioned, our last topic, our last unpopular opinion on the theme of socialism. We asked 100 humans today to name a service you think the government should run. Nombra un servicio que crees que debería gestionar el gobierno. That could be, of course, depending on what country you're in, a service the government already runs. But still, it's an idea. The idea is the services that we all use, which should be government run, obviously. And today's unpopular opinion is nationalisation usually makes services worse. La nacionalización. Thank you. Oh my God. When I get that nod from Dan, that stoic nod, it just feels so good, especially on a Friday. La nacionalización suele empeorar los servicios. Is that true or false? I'm glad this was one of the highest voted ones, because it gives me the opportunity to talk about Andy Burnham and his crusade, is it fair to say, against neoliberalism? That Thatcherite idea that public services should be privatised. So it's going to be an interesting one. But anyway, no spoilers. We'll get to that in a little bit. Bridge says, make it a controversial week. I really feel like a good punch-up. It seems yesterday gave me a treat, gave me a reset. Yeah, we've had some good controversial topics. You guys have not gone easy on me while I've let you pick the unpopular opinions. And I do appreciate that. I like it. I like the challenge. All right, should we get into some news? Of course, the biggest news. What was the biggest news yesterday, Dan? What was the biggest news you think we covered yesterday? Can I tell you what I think it was? I think the biggest news we covered yesterday was you leaving Twitter. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. And I did mention, I mean, I know you did it because the algorithm is feeding you some disgusting, violent, hyper-violent posts, right? And you're not that kind of guy.
Yes.
Again, all part of the algorithmic nature of the platform. Trying to enrage you and trying to perhaps push you towards certain prejudices that you may not currently hold. And I applaud your decision to leave it in the background. I think it's amazing. Not many people have the strength of will to do things like that. You like punch-ups too? Asks the Bridge. Well, I like punch-ups in the verbal sense. I'm not as young as I used to be. I did almost spoil yesterday a piece of news I wanted to cover today about the new Twitter. Did you know about the new Twitter, Dan?
No.
Yeah, no one does. It's crazy. I love it. I went to the homepage of the new Twitter, but what is this new Twitter? Well, I did find one publication talking about it. It was arstechnica.com, a publication I'm a particular fan of. New Twitter launches, says Musk's ex gave up the name. New Twitter se lanza y afirma que ex de Musk renunció el nombre. So, this is talking about Operation Bluebird. It's a Virginia-based startup that has launched Twitter.now. I do encourage you, if you're a fan of Twitter or what Twitter was before it became X, check it out. Right now, because of the legal strife they're under, you don't get access to the platform. But do go and check it out. So, Virginia-based startup has launched Twitter.now, a new social media platform built around the Twitter name and bird branding that Elon Musk's X Corp left behind after rebranding Twitter as X. The company argues that X effectively abandoned the old Twitter trademarks, including tweet, the bird logo, and possibly even the word Twitter. X Corp has already sued to stop the project, but after a judge suggested in an April hearing that some of those trademark claims may have been given up, Operation Bluebird decided not to wait for a final written ruling before launching. can confirm yesterday you couldn't access the platform. There was how would you call it? Like the front page blocked access. I think it's probably down to their legal woes. In fact, I'll read you what it says on the front page. There was a place where the whole world came to talk. The richest man alive bought it and broke it. We're a small team taking Twitter back, rebuilt on trust. Sadly, there is just a blue screen on there and we can't actually access it. Oh no, wait, look, it does say you can log in. Let's see. Maybe I will create. No, it's blocked. I am going to follow this news because every Twitter substitute that has come seems to have failed, doesn't it? I think Threads is quite popular. Are you using Threads, Dan?
No, I don't like it.
I don't like it either. There's something about the magic of old Twitter that is. I don't know whether it was lightning in a bottle, but there was a way you would access trending posts and things that is still there, but it's just giving you access to hate, isn't it? I don't know. I will follow this because Blue Sky was apparently an option. If you're asking me, Blue Sky is a bit cack as well. Mastodon, I did create a Mastodon account, didn't like it. Maybe Twitter.now is the solution, but we'll find out, I guess. The new platform is still tiny with only hundreds of users, but it's deliberately designed to feel like the old Twitter, including replies and retweets. Its biggest new feature is Vera, a Gemini-based automated fact-checking tool that reviews every post in real time. Operation Bluebird says it wants to rebuild the idea of an online town square around freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. Allowing people to speak while reducing the rewards for viral misinformation. Oh God, amen. I love everything I read about this platform. Trademark experts say the company may have a workable legal argument, but launching the product has sharply raised the stakes in its fight with X Corp. Yeah, its launch was immediately contested. Of course, Twitter.com is still owned by X, right? I think if you type in Twitter.com, which I regularly do when I publish the post and the show every morning, it takes you to X. But anyway. Have you found any viable alternative to Twitter, Dan?
No, I haven't searched it yet.
No, I don't think anything will capture that magic. My hope is that Twitter.new will get out of this legal battle and give us back a platform, an actual town square. How are we doing? IFT is joining us, says hi, welcome. What else is being said? You can still ignore For You tab in Twitter and only retweets from the accounts you follow. Yeah, that's the thing though, Mike. The For You tab was one of the features that I used to enjoy about Twitter. Well, it wasn't For You then, it was trending, wasn't it? Or there was trending and other things. But the problem is, when you platform racists and people who promote hate speech, the trending posts are all going to be coloured by a little bit of racism and hate speech, right? And Dan's experience there with the platform kind of highlights exactly why I don't use it. I only use it to publish the episodes, which I'm really seriously considering stop doing. I don't think anyone, certainly the nature of the show that we produce together doesn't lend itself to Twitter as a platform, does it? This program isn't about stoking hate, it's about exploring ideas, something that the old Twitter was very much about. Anyway, oh my God, this reminds me of new IRA. That is really interesting. What's this? Make Twitter great again? Maybe. The old Twitter was also cooler because it was more about words than about videos and pictures, says Mike. Yeah, amen to that too. And I used to even enjoy, believe it or not, the limited characters because it forced you to be concise with your ideas, you know? Let's see. We'll follow Twitter.new and see if there are any developments in its progress. I might even I might even become a founder. I think it costs 20 euros to become a founder. Or $20, is it? Let me just check. Yeah, become a founder for $20. And see if I get any extra news. Yeah, I do miss the Tweety Bird. I'm going to be honest with you. All right, on that note, friends, let's move on to today's unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion.
Okay, today's unpopular opinion, today's pedomental is nationalisation usually makes services work. Again, I need to just run into it, Dan. La nacionalización suele empeorar los servicios. It's a tough word. Nationalisation usually makes services worse. This is... Well, I added this to the list because I've been following Andy Burnham's government quite closely. And his crusade against neoliberalism is a bit of a bookmark for me that I find very interesting. It is where I believe Labour, the Labour Party, initially went wrong under Tony Blair. Neoliberalism, you probably understand that word, or you've probably heard that word, right, Dan? You've heard the word neoliberalism before.
Yes.
But probably not many people really understand the mechanics of what it is. It's a political and economic philosophy that favours free market capitalism, lower taxes, privatisation, and reduced government spending, basically, right? Letting supply and demand set prices with little state control, moving public services and state-owned industry into private hands, which is particularly pertinent to this argument. And obviously things like deregulation, removing government rules from businesses and trade. You can decide for yourselves whether that has been a good idea when you look at what's happened to many industries in the US. Fiscal austerity, cutting public spending on social programs and welfare. Neoliberalism, I think it's something in modern government we've all gotten quite used to. And for the last 40 years, British politics has been governed by that pretty simple idea, right? If the state is running something badly, entre comillas, in inverted commas, hand it over to the private sectors. Private companies we were told, would be more efficient. They would innovate. Competition would force them to improve, and because they were risking their own money rather than public taxpayer money, they would have every reason to keep costs under control, and that was the theory, right? And then they privatized the water companies in the UK. And what happened? Well, bills rose. Debt piled up. I mean, the shareholders, don't worry, the shareholders were still getting their value. You know, they still received their dividends. But then, on the other hand, the rest of us the rest of the people in the UK, I can't count myself in this, started seeing sewage appear in rivers. The railways were privatised too. And now Andy Burnham says that Britain has had enough. And he's described himself as being on a mission to end 40 years of neoliberalism. He wants life's essentials brought back under stronger public control. Water, energy, housing and transport. I mean, there's a simple fact of the matter. If you can't choose which company supplies the water coming into your tap, in what meaningful sense is that the free market? All right? The company's not competing for business, is it? We call that a monopoly. If every train operator uses the same tracks and stations, are the British public enjoying the dynamism of the free market or simply buying different coloured tickets for the same delayed train? Is privatisation actually giving us the value that it was promised? That's what's up for debate today, boys and girls. That's what's up for debate today. Nationalisation usually makes services worse. What do you think, Dan? How do you think they voted on Instagram, first of all?
I think they voted false.
You know, that was my hope too, Dan. But they actually voted true. 57% of people voted true. What do you think?
Just to make sure an idea.
Yeah.
nationalization means to privatize things.
No. It's the opposite. The government
to make it.
Yeah. So we, the people, own it. To use an ideal. I mean, usually they're government run, like the national health here in Spain, in the UK, the NHS, our national health.
Well, then I think sadly but true.
Okay, and that's a fair point, right? Because we've, I mean, even in Spain, quite a lot is privatized. Power is privatized, telecommunications privatized. All right, so let's get into it, shall we? Let's get into it. Can nationalisation make services worse? Sadly for me, I mean, possibly not for the majority of our people who voted on Instagram. I think I'm a false, but True did win the argument. So let's get into the True column and have a look at some of those ideas. Weak competition reduces pressure to improve. Private firms can lose customers when services deteriorate. A nationalised provider may face much less competitive pressure, especially in sectors where users cannot easily go elsewhere. That can make inefficiency, poor customer service, and slow innovation easier to tolerate. I mean, competition for me is weak in essential services anyway. If you don't like the people who provide you water, you still need to use water, right? I mean, and let's be honest, it's not simply a matter of the bills you pay. There's an infrastructure cost, and we, the public, foot the bill for a lot of that infrastructure anyway. Political incentives can distort management. Nationalised services can become vulnerable to short electoral cycles, ministerial interference, and headline-driven decisions. Investment may be delayed, prices frozen, or staffing expanded for political reasons, rather than because it improves the service. Again, to offer some kind of a rebuttal, private firms face their own distortions, don't they? Quarterly earnings pressure, shareholder demands, or even, like, as is the case with a lot of these big power companies here, all over the world, executive incentives. Remember, where at the start of the Ukraine conflict, when prices shot up, the electricity companies made record-breaking earnings that year. Political influence isn't the only form of short-termism, right? Of short-term thinking. Okay, bureaucracy, and I think this is where a lot of you will relate, and probably why a lot of you voted True. Bureaucracy can slow adaptation. Large public organisations often have complex procurement rules, rigid pay structures, and cumbersome approval processes. These safeguards may exist for good reasons, but they can make it harder to experiment, reward strong performance, or respond quickly to changing demand. Yeah, in the same respect though, bureaucracy can also protect against corruption, favoritism, reckless decision making. I know a lot of you are probably thinking about the conditions in your own country and saying, well, sometimes bureaucracy can actually provoke those things. But, fast decisions aren't automatically good decisions, I think, is what I'm trying to get to. Especially when it comes to public money and essential services, Poor performance is harder to punish. A badly run private company can lose customers, investors, or ultimately fail. A nationalised service is more likely to be rescued because society cannot allow it to disappear. That can weaken the consequences of persistent mismanagement. And again, I would argue that essential private providers are also rescued too, because governments can't allow critical infrastructure to collapse. In practice, taxpayers absorb the downside of private owners, right? All right, let's get into the cons, where 43% of our people voted. So saying that nationalisation does not make services worse. People cannot simply stop using water, electricity, healthcare, or transport because they'll dislike the provider. When demand is unavoidable, the normal discipline of consumer choice is much weaker. So public ownership may align the service more closely with users than with shareholders. True. Yeah. I mean, look, a private company ultimately needs to create profits for its shareholders, right? It can provide a bad service as long as it's profitable. It can pollute as long as it's profitable. A private provider may increase returns by reducing staffing, postponing maintenance, cutting unprofitable routes, or charging more where customers have a few alternatives. Nationalisation can remove the pressure to extract profit from services whose primary purpose is social rather than commercial. If you live in a public service dead zone, you recognise that in terms of transport, right? For example. I have a lot more to say on this issue, but right now it's your turn to speak, friends. What do you think? I think I've shown my hands. I'm pretty much a false on this one. But I'll tell you why I'm a false after the break. The unpopular opinion, nationalisation usually makes services worse. True or false? I'll place the poll in the chat while we go for a quick 4-minute hydration break. See you soon. Hey guys, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/professional bohemian. There you'll find VODs of the episodes as they are recorded live, blogs, vlogs, and behind the scenes content. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can do so on twitch.tv/professional bohemian, and you can participate in the polls we use in the show on Instagram @professional bohemian or Twitter @ProBoh, ProBoh. Okay, on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. You're joining us live at 9 a.m. on Phone Radio on this, the 28th of August. My God, this year is just flying by. It's already almost September. How are you doing out there? It is Friday. It's Friday. Oh.
It's Friday.
Oh, yeah. It is Friday. You're joining us live as we conclude this week-long discussion on socialism. Thank you, Dan. He's on the ball today. Yeah, it's a tough one today. But before we get to that, what did you miss if we just tuned in? Well, yesterday we found out that Dan has left Twitter, a move I applaud. And I did, I guess, because my algorithm is attuned to all things new in social media. I was made aware of Twitter.new that are tackling X Corp, Elon Musk's X, directly by recreating Twitter in its old glory. They are facing legal barriers, though. I will keep you apprised of those barriers and what happens with this platform as it moves on. But interesting development, and I do love the idea of freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. Do you understand that distinction when I say that? Do you get it, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah. It's the idea that, you can say whatever the hell you want, but don't expect there not to be consequences if you're talking BS. Stuff. Yeah. Let's prize what is true. And then we got into our unpopular opinion. Nationalism usually makes services worse. La nacionalización suele empeorar los servicios. And it's an interesting topic today because, again, I mean, as with all of these unpopular opinions, and I can always see the nuance in the debate. But obviously, my place here is to act as a counterbalance to what is an accepted opinion, and for most of us on Instagram, it was 57% true today. So I provided a bit stronger false argument. You can still vote. The vote is still live if you want to do so. It's going to be live for another 4 minutes. I am, of course, very interested in what you have to say about that. Not many of you watching live have voted. Uncle Rob is disappointed. All right, anyway, so what is this debate actually about? I think it's the kind of failure we fear more. El tipo de fracaso. Like, would you prefer market failure or government failure? I mean, I think that's what this debate is about. Really. I mean, I'm a false, not because I think nationalism makes services better. I just think, privatization makes them worse than nationalization does. I don't see nationalized services. I don't see nationalized services, the fact that they're not profitable, as a bug. I see that as a feature. I mean, think about public transport, for example. It's a good example. If you're not focused on profits, you're focused on services, then these areas that have almost zero public transport can be serviced, because the focus is not about what is profitable, it's about what the public needs. And I think that's important, an important distinction. I mean, supporters of privatization worry about complacency and bureaucracy and political interference and organizations that can't fail no matter how badly they perform. But again, I'd say that's maybe a bug, maybe a feature, not a bug. Supporters of nationalisation worry about monopoly power, underinvestment, cost-cutting, and essential services being organised around profitability rather than need, as I said. But I think there's also a conflict between efficiency and universality, right? A private provider could be good at serving profitable customers efficiently while abandoning expensive ones, right? And a public provider may serve everyone but do so at a higher cost. Which one is better, I think, depends partly on whether we judge the system by cost per user or service quality. Access, resilience, fairness. When it comes to public services, or services that you might think should be public, I think we could agree, right? We want better quality, access, resilience, and fairness. And we'll find out what you think services should be run by the government in our 100 Human section. And ask yourself, what is the service quality like? What is the access like? What's the resilience of that service? And how fair is it? When we get to the services in the next part of the show that you think should be government run, because that's today's 100 Human question, which really adds an interesting aspect to this. The ownership question is also a little bit of a distraction, if I'm honest with you. A publicly owned company with clear targets, competent management and operational independence may behave very different from a politicized bureaucracy. Likewise, a regulated private utility may behave very differently from an unrestrained monopoly. A good example of that is when Andy Burnham was the mayor of Manchester, and he let me see if I can find any information on this. And he took control of Greater Manchester's B network, their local bus network. So the local authority took control of the bus routes, the fares, the timetables, and created a coordinated network rather than leave the private operators to decide which services were worth running. So it was still a privately owned company, but it was under public control. Interesting. Which is and it did prove to be very successful. So perhaps there is something to be said here for, again, that area of grey that we try and eventually get to in this show. Anyway, so have we changed your opinion at all, Dan? Have we moved your needle at all?
No.
No, you're still a true.
Yes.
All right, let's get into some comments we got on in and among our friends in the chat. All right. Artemisa's with us. Good morning, Artemisa. She says, good morning, folks. Veros is false. Nationalisation isn't inherently good or bad. It improves services when they are well run and well funded, and it worsens them when political incentives replace performance incentives. Yeah. I mean, that's fair to say, isn't it? I mean, look, when we look at our national health services, we quite often, think about the glory days. Oh my God, so underfunded. Mike says, I think nationalisation can have benefits, especially regarding essential needs. However, the incentive for government to manage the resources well isn't the same as a business. which needs to make money off the resources, and their costs come out of their profits, so they often have much more incentives. Yeah, I would agree, except for like if we look at Thames Water, for example, in the UK, we see the exact opposite happening. We see pollution happening. We see zero investment happen. We saw shareholders getting their dividends every year. But services dropping and price gouging happening, right? Because let's be honest, any private company only has one North Star, and that is creating profits for its shareholders. So, your bank balance doesn't mean anything. The quality of your service doesn't mean anything. It's second, should we say, to the profitability. And whereas many of you might say, well, it's run inefficiently, I see that as a feature, not a bug. Because quite often, need is inefficient. If you live in, I don't know, an internet dead zone or telecommunication dead zone, or the water and electricity doesn't reach the area efficiently where you live, because it's simply not profitable to do so, then you're forgotten about. But if it was a national imperative to make need the priority, not profit, then perhaps that would change. Yeah, I mean, that's the crux of the debate for me, I think. Yeah, it is an interesting one, because obviously there is no right or wrong here. There are only opinions. That's what this show is about, isn't it? I think the poll has now finished. Yes, it has. All right, so let's dig in. Let's dig into some interesting comments I got on Instagram. Frederick says, I mostly agree. Without competition or the threat of losing customers, there's less pressure to improve efficiency or service. My brother in Christ, if you cannot turn off your water. If you don't like the people who provide your water, you still got to use water, my friend. For example, again, I'm going to draw the example of Thames Water. There is no competition. There is no free market there. You use Thames Water or you don't use water. I hate to break this to you. You're going to survive 3 days without drinking it. Rachel Bennett says, private companies can be just as inefficient, except they also need to generate profit for shareholders. Yeah. I don't want to kind of be too kind of gung-ho in my act, because to be honest, we're looking at two broken systems, aren't we? I think both nationalisation and privatisation never really lead to good results. Maybe what we need is a nice mixture of the two, like the bee service in Manchester that Andy Burnham spearheaded, where companies were under private ownership, but essentially run by the public. Evo, or IVO, maybe that's not your actual name, says, it depends on the service. I want competition for restaurants and airlines, but I'm pretty sure competition makes as much... But I'm not sure competition makes much sense for water pipes. Yeah, quite right. And when there's an infrastructure breakdown, quite often it's not the private companies that are paying for that. It's us. Right? Maud. Oh, great name. Maud says, ownership matters less than accountability. A badly regulated private monopoly can be every bit as terrible as a badly managed public service. I would argue quite often worse. Quite often worse. If profit is your number one motivation, then keeping prices reasonable for your clients when they have no choice, they can't go to a competitor. You know what I mean? There is no incentive there to keep prices low, is there? Let's see. Artemisa says, we still have Correos among other mail companies, and I usually choose a private one because I at least pick up the phone if you have a problem. I'm leaning towards true today. Yeah, Correos is a pretty good example of bureaucracy run wild, which is why I can't make such a strong argument in false today, because you see the practical implementation of our public money, and you think, geez Louise, it's so immensely frustrating. It's a tough one today. I just don't think. I honestly think that this debate is not about whether nationalisation creates worse services. It's who creates the worst services. I mean, Correos is maybe one example of private enterprise doing a much better job than public. But would you want privatized healthcare like they have in the US? Would you want that? Probably not, right? Or private prisons? Would you want that? Private police? Would you want that? Would you want profit to be the motive behind a police force? Would you want profit to be the motive behind prisons? It's it's not as cut and dry as you might think, which is what makes these debates useful and interesting to have. Artemisa continues. She says, but yeah, as you said, Rob, there isn't going to be any real competition. I don't think privatizing a service is necessarily a good idea. Yeah, because there are certain areas in society, I think we all agree, where profit shouldn't be the number one motive. I think healthcare is probably the easiest example of that, right? Anyway, should we get to the results of the poll? I think we probably should, right? So I made the statement that nationalisation usually makes services worse. La nacionalización suele empeorar los servicios. And you guys said 67% true. Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed. I think I have to maybe perhaps, again, like I quite often do on this show, throw my hands up in the air and say, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, all these are just opinions, aren't they? They don't make the conversation any less useful. I think, if I'm going to say anything, I think nationalisation, it could make services worse when it protects poor management from competition and turns operational decisions into political ones. I think there we can all agree, right? The slow burn and march, the cogs slowly turning of bureaucracy, and it's just infuriating, isn't it? But privatization can make them worse when profits become more important than access, than reliability, than long-term investment. I mean, you're not going to invest long-term if it's just not profitable, are you, if you're a private company? And we saw that with Thames Water, with the rail networks in the UK as well. The strongest conclusion is not that public or private ownership wins, but that monopoly without accountability is dangerous whichever side owns it. Right? And I think you might agree with that, Dan. It's not that everything should be nationalised or everything should be privately owned, but perhaps competition is what we need. That monopoly is the problem. Whether that monopoly is under the hands of a government or whether that monopoly is under the hands of a privately owned company. But you know what Grandpa Bo would say about all this, right, friends? He'd say, Rob, that's just your opinion, and opinions, they're like buttholes. Everyone has one. They all stink, including mine. Let's move on to today's 100 Humans. Oh my God. It was a long walk to work today across snow-capped mountains and through river valleys, and on that walk, I encountered 100 humans, and I asked them all a question. Today's question was, name a service you think the government should run. Nombra un servicio que crees que debería gestionar el gobierno. And again, this could be a service the government already runs. We're just talking about the services we think the government should run. And yeah, I don't know where you're listening from, friends. I know I have a massive audience in the States. And as I discovered last week in Japan, konnichiwa, my friends. So as well as here in Spain, obviously. So let's see. What do you think? Dan, name a service you think the government should run.
Well, I have to search the word in English. So
Okay, you search
Give
the
me
word
a
and
minute.
we'll come back to you. Social networks, says Mike. That's interesting. Redes sociales. Is it there? No, it's not. By the way, big thank you to Fenokiti, Juana Reo, Pilar, that's all folks, Anna Kasan, Ivan GP, Pedro, Mia, Raj, Ivan Samrov, just a metric ton of you on Instagram that interacted today. And look at this, we've got Mr. Fitz here. Fitz, name a service you think the government should run. Can be a service that they already do run, or something that they might.
Yeah, like the ones they already run, for example, which is very well done here. Mm-hmm. Not so good in my country, not so good in your country, which is the public health service.
Public health service.
Spanish people underestimate how good it is here.
Yeah, I agree with that. So healthcare, even Artemisa in the chat, and many people on Instagram said that one. Fenokiti, a bunch of people said that. Ivan Samrov. Is healthcare there? Sanidad. Yes, it is. Well done. And with 22 of 100 humans, it's the number one answer. All right. Railways, says Mike. Railways. Well, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's say public transport. Is public transport there? This is Mike's answer. Yes, it is. Well done. All right. Okay, what else do we have? Water supply. That's Vero. Well, let's say utilities in general. Right, utilities in general. So water, gas, if that's your thing, electricity, luz, as you say over here. I love that, by the way. How you say light in Spain. Doesn't matter if you're warming up your water. It's just light.
Just once you have light, that's the main thing.
Is utilities there? Electricity, water, things like that. Yes, it is. Well done, Vero. 10 of 100 humans said that. Did you find the word, Dan?
yes,
What was it?
ophthalmology.
So, well, that would fall under health, wouldn't it?
I guess so, yes.
So you got the number one answer. Congratulations. Supermarkets, says Mike. Ooh. Supermarkets. Didn't Burnham do... no. I'm thinking of the guy in the States, the new mayor of New York, Mamdani, creating a chain of private, publicly run small grocery stores.
Really?
Yeah, to control pricing. Supermarkets, is it there? No, it's not. But thank you, that great answer. Welcome, Fitz, says Artemisa. Yeah, we all love Fitz.
Hi, Artemisa. How are you?
I totally agree with Fitz. It's part of the main reason why I'm here, says the Bridge, talking about national health there.
So the Bridge isn't a Spanish person?
Well, she is technically, but she started or lived for many years of her life in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why her English is so beautiful. What's this? Nothing as a monopolist, says Artemisia. I would agree with that. All right. Let's see what people are saying on Instagram. Fenokiti says healthcare and public transport, but also mentions here education. Educación. Is education there? Yes, it is. Well done. Look at you guys. Juan Arreo says national defense. Yeah, national defense. Is defense there? Of course, in the US, that's been rebranded again, hasn't it? It's now the Department of War. It used to be the Defense Department.
That's right.
Pete.
And now we have Lake America.
Oh, yeah, Lake America. It's not Lake Ontario. Why would we want to call it that? All right, is defense there? It's a good answer. No, it's not. I'll give you a clue. Artemisa mentioned this service. It's in there. Earlier on in the show. Let's see. Housing, says Juan Arreo. Electricity, Pilar, that fell under utilities. A lot of people said education. Juan Arreo, Anakasan, Van GP, renting of flats. So housing. Cleaning. Yeah, well, that's, yeah, he doesn't mean cleaning yet, like cleaning ladies or cleaning gentlemen who come to your house. He means cleaning the streets, right? That would fall under infrastructure, I guess. Healthcare, said Ivan Samrov. Mia here. Mia says the police. Policia. Is the police there? Yes, it is Mia. Great. The only person, by the way, of the listeners on Instagram who said police, but it's the number 2 answer. 18 of 100 humans said it. The Mail says Artemisa, the postal service, Servicio Postal. Is the postal service there? Yes, it is. Well done. Okay, I did mention this one earlier in the show, but I only mentioned it very briefly. It's run mainly for profit in the US, which has led to anything that I say here will will give you too big of a clue. It's not the police, but it's where the police actually do have a problem with, where they might end up, where they might go after having a problem with the police. You might end up in this place. Also, other answers here in the audience. We've got Mike, who says scientific research. Artemisa says the fire service. Great answers. But if you, we talked about a national police service, but if you have a problem with the police, where might you end up? Dan, do you want to give us this answer?
Prison?
Prisons. A service you think the government should run. Artemisa got it. Dan got it. It's there. Well done. Prisiones, I think you say in Spanish. All right, let's go through the list. I asked 100 humans to name a service you think the government should run. In position number 7, Prisiones, prisons. In position number 6, the postal service, Servicio Postal. In position number 5, utilities, suministros básicos, I think you would say in Spanish. In position number 4, transporte público, public transport. With 17 of 100 humans in position number 3, you had education. In position number 2, with 18 of 100 humans, the police, policía. And finally, in position number 1, with 22 of 100 humans, we had healthcare. All right, guys, thank you for an amazing week on the show. Rob, I met Fitz. I thought he was aware that I am that wacky Yolanda that turned up at Richard's concert. Yeah, he knows who you are.
Ah, okay.
We all know who you are, Bridge. You're the best. Cloud computing services, says Mike. Some great answers here in the audience, by the way. Coming to the office on a Friday in August. You're both legends, he says. Both of us can't wait for everybody else to get back to.
Yeah, but they can wait.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's all from me for today. I'll leave you in Fitz's capable hands, and I'll see you next time.